Alright, I am going to rank every single interchange on Florida State Roads 814 and 91, better known as Florida's Turnpike. Here are some ground rules. Pause if you want to read them. If you don't, it's okay, I'll explain everything anyway. We are going to go from best to worst interchanges so you can have context for everything that went wrong along the way. With that in mind, let's jump right into the first category. This is what you should aspire to. Right in the top spot, we have exit 251, the interchange between the Turnpike and the section of State Road 417 known as the Central Florida Greenway. That's a terrible name, but the highway changes names as it goes along, so don't worry about it too much. Now, to answer your two immediate questions, Green is spelled like that because it was a politician's last name, and a highway interchange in the top spot? Really? But yes. This interchange wasn't completed until 2024, and all of the Florida Department of Transportation, or FDOT's, knowledge really shows you. First of all, these flyover ramps, these are beautiful things. They're perfectly angled with just the right balance of speed and ease of driving, and the flyover ramps that are going the same direction converge together to avoid being wasteful. You can see this with a northbound driver on the Turnpike here. That's the north-south road in this case. When they take the exit to head west on State Road 417, that ramp converges with the same southbound exit ramp. The exit also has two of these circular ramps. These are known as cloverleafs, and henceforth I will be referring to them as such. They're designed to avoid long left turn type flyover ramps if the space is available. After all, it's simpler to build on the ground than in the air. Normally, I really do not like these because they're kind of a waste of space. Just look how much width this takes up, this big square area. But I actually really like them here. First, they're placed in directions which are generally the less traveled ones in these exits, which is important because you have to slow down when turning on one of these, so that can create a significant bottleneck in and of itself. Then the motorist is given this long vertical stretch here to get up to speed, which also neatly meets with this nice exit ramp over here. This one from westbound or southbound, technically, Greenway to the northbound Turnpike. The cloverleaf actually ends up spacing out the traffic nicely due to that slowdown, so the driver ends up with more than enough time to A, get up to speed, and B, merge onto the turnpike. Because if you have too many people merging onto a road at once, that creates traffic. This is an interchange that's easy to understand, not wasteful, and great to drive on. That is all you can ask for from an interchange. This is just great work from FDOT overall. In second, we have exit 107 for State Road 710, the Beeline Highway. The Beeline Highway is largely a niche road through truckers that passes through the middle of nowhere, but that is actually part of why I appreciate this exit. It's not excessive, the interchange design is simple and compact, but still easily drivable. It funnels tolls neatly, and I'll explain why that's important later, but the Turnpike is a toll road. That is what Turnpike means, actually. Just a toll road. The Beeline Highway places... Oh, don't worry about that. The Beeline Highway places us on a street, which it allows us to easily access both the roads in the area. So we have this top street right here and this diagonal street, which is the Beeline Highway itself. The roads eventually converge like just west of this exit, but by placing the exit in this side street, we allow traffic to easily pick which direction they want to go. So we simultaneously serve this residential area and the long distance truckers that want to use the Beeline Highway, because the Beeline Highway itself allows for easily access to Central Florida, but south of Orlando, areas which are largely underserved and need those truckers for freight to, bolster their economy. So really, this is just a great series of decisions by FDOT. If you're going to make a non-standard exit design, this is how you do it. And third, as you might have seen if you were spoiled, we have exit 43 for State Road 823, better known as Red Road, or Northwest 57th Avenue. There's not much to say here. This exit's really simple. It's not wasteful. Very pretty landscaping. Just a pleasant experience all around. Just good stuff. Exit 99 for Okeechobee Boulevard. You're going to hear the word Okeechobee a lot today. It's the best incarnation of these sort of modified Trump interchanges. What do I mean by that? First of all, this image on the bottom here, this city skyline screenshot, is a good example of what you would call a trumpet interchange. A trumpet interchange is designed to essentially take the end of one road and bring it onto another that's passing perpendicular to it. But the benefit of this design is that all traffic, whether exiting the longer road or entering the longer road, it all converges on the same place. Why is that useful? Back in the day, when you were driving on the turnpike, you would have to collect a ticket like the one you see here, and you would get it stamped as you passed each toll gantry, and then once you finally exited, you would be charged accordingly based on the stamps that you had. And if you wanted to do a U-turn, you had to do it at a service plaza and all those other obnoxious things. So despite the fact that Okeechobee Boulevard does not end here, a sort of modified trumpet design. You can see the same characteristic cloverleaf ramp here and the way this other ramp kind of branches out this way. It all converges on the same point here in the bottom right of the image. All entering and exiting traffic ends up on the same road. That makes it easy to collect tolls because you can just have the same gate accessible to everybody. One long gate instead of four different smaller gates makes it significantly easier to manage everybody. Now, the thing about these is that a lot of these exits have aged poorly because it's 2026. We can collect tolls electronically, and tolls are collected automatically. So that means there's really no need for this sort of design. That being said, this exit has aged better than most because the ramps are not as egregiously long as some of the other ones we'll see later, and those trees are kind of pretty. Oh, and if you're wondering about the number skip, just watch to the end, okay? In number 6, we have the southern end of the turnpike. This right here is the end of the turnpike. It goes toward Key West, toward the US 1 south toward Key West, the very southern end of the continental United States, along with US 1 itself. There's nothing particularly special about this one. It's just kind of really fun all around. Got nice palm trees, an expressway end sign, which we won't have in northbound end. My personal favorite, the Monroe County shelter sign. Monroe County covers all of the Florida Keys, which are south of South Florida, along with a section of the Everglades that literally 19 people live in. But this is really funny because imagine you live in Key West, you drive 3 hours to get to the Florida mainland, you're finally there, you start rejoicing, oh my goodness, you can save your family from this hurricane, and then you still have to drive another 25 miles. It's really funny, but I would crash out. Now, let's move into our next category. I actually like this. Nothing incredible, but still stuff that's enjoyable. In 7th place, we have exit 9A and B. I'm not really sure why having two separate exits on one side, that being the southern side, was necessary. But you know what? This is one of the prettiest lakes on the entire turnpike. Just look at the way all these trees are like wrapping around the lake. It's just really pretty. Nice stuff. In 8th is exit 97 for US 98. I love a funny counting session, and I also love a good use of space. Here we have two separate ramps, which are quite rarely on two different streets. Here you can see this ramp, which is this Turnpike southbound exit and the Turnpike southbound entrance, and this one here is the same but for northbound. While I don't really enjoy being sent to the wrong street when I take an exit, this road on the southern end here is the actual Southern Boulevard in question, not this vertical road. It's not really that deep to get there. It's like 2 lights, you'll live. And I'd rather lose a few moments getting there than shove in a modified trumpet like 3 exits ago just to waste more space. Also, right next to this northbound ramp right here is a fire station, which you see Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. That means that this fire station has quick access to the turnpike, which I find awesome. Although that also means they only have quick southbound access, which is a bit awkward. Oh well. The very first exit on the turnpike takes the 9th spot, though since you can only access it going northbound, it would only actually ever be the last exit. This is a rare case where a half-accessible exit actually makes sense, and I will absolutely cook some of the other ones of this variety later. As previously discussed, the Turnpike starts at US 1, which means that if you were going north on the Turnpike at this spot, you already had the chance to go north on US 1. You literally had to come from there by definition. That all makes this exit mercifully simple and appreciated. The lack of advertising for the northbound entrance is pretty weird though. There are basically no signs. This ramp here on the top right, this is the way to turn onto the northbound Turnpike. Do you see any signs here indicating the Turnpike? No, I don't either. In 10th, we have one of the most consequential exits on the entire Turnpike, the exit for the town of Jupiter. But it is not consequential because of Jupiter, unless you really love golf or Roman gods. In reality, this exit puts us right next to Interstate 95. This interchange here on the left, another modified trumpet for you, is the Turnpike's exit for Jupiter. And this exit here on the right is I-95's exit for Jupiter. Despite being so close that in this section of road you can literally see the two roads from each other, the roads themselves do not directly connect. And honestly, I think that's a great decision. In this section of travel, and just in general, aside from when the Turnpike turns toward Orlando, the two roads have very similar travel paths. They both hug the east coast of Florida. They just take slightly different routes around getting there. So there's no real need to have a direct interchange because you'd be building an interchange just to send people to function at the same place. Now, yes, Interstate 95 is built for more commuter traffic and long distance traffic, while the Turnpike is just built for long distance traffic, and you can see that in the distance of its exits compared to Interstate 95. Interstate 95 has like about an exit per mile in the stretch, while the Turnpike has maybe an exit every 4 miles. However, that does not mean that it's worth even interchange in itself. You can just kind of swap off if you want to go to another. The fact that they're going in the same direction means that traffic that's already in one of these roads is going to want to stay on that road most likely. And if you don't, well, you have a very simple access right here. This is also a great chance to compare the differences in these interchanges. Interstate 95 uses a sort of modified partial cloverleaf interchange here, although it's also verging on a turbine interchange, but don't worry about that too much. This is designed to keep traffic as free-flowing as possible without the bottlenecks caused by the weaving required in a full cloverleaf. In a normal full cloverleaf, you have 4 cloverleaf ramps that form an actual cloverleaf shape. That's why it's called that. But what that means is that, let's say, for example, you have this person on Interstate 95 kind of exiting here, or actually they'd be, or entering here. You have this person on I-95 entering here, or the like, or exiting here, I'm sorry. They are going to go on this ramp, go around, but if it's a full cloverleaf, there's going to be immediately another ramp greeting them here. So they have to immediately get out of this lane onto another lane. The problem is you also have tons of people trying to enter that lane. That's called a weave. And that is also why they use partial cloverleafs instead of full cloverleafs, to avoid that weave. That being said, the Turnpike requires toll collection, so we once again have a modified trumpet bringing everyone to the same spot. So really, collecting tolls just changes everything. In the 11th spot, we have exit 13. I actually quite appreciate this one because it's a solid use of a frontage road, or a road that runs parallel to a larger road, taking on the traffic that wants to enter and exit at that point. This exit wants to serve 2 separate streets here, Quail Roost and Eureka. So the frontage road safely allows people to access both of those streets, while also providing entrance points for both without extra space usage. A frontage road is generally very compact because it's right next to the actual larger road. Also, I love these street names. They're a nice bonus, very funny. Imagine telling people you live on Quail Roost Drive. That's just beautiful. In 12th, we have exit 193 Yeehaw Junction. There is absolutely nothing special about this exit whatsoever. There is literally no defining characteristic to this. We once again have a modified trumpet. Don't take shots, you'll die. That being said, this is the only exit in a 90-mile stretch of road. So that alone makes it better. the gap between this exit and the next exit on the northbound turnpike is literally the longest gap between exits in the entire country on any highway. So if you're seeing this exit and you need this exit, you really need this exit, and you're like thanking Jesus. Otherwise, it's just kind of sad. But this really needs to be here, so it does deserve to be high. As for downsides, the gas station isn't super close to the exit though. That kind of sucks. Also, the town originally used to be called Jackass Junction, but had to change its name because FDOT wouldn't put that on signs. Next up is Becker Road. This is just the standard exit. There's a nice bridge here. I guess the exit was constructed this century, so there's no big waste of space trumpet. It's the only exit in the 9-mile span, so there's some nice needed relief here. It's just a decent exit. It's fine. In 14th, we have exit 2X. Your immediate question might be, bro, 2X, what does that even mean? You see, we talked about exit 1 earlier, but that is not where the turnpike originally ended. The southern 47 miles of the turnpike were added a decade after the turnpike's original construction. Known as the Homestead extension of Florida's turnpike, as State Road A14 in contrast to State Road 91 at the rest of the turnpike, it acts as a suburban bypass within Miami-Dade County and some of Broward County. That's also why there are so many exits in that early stretch, as we'll see as we go forth. Unlike the rest of the road, it wasn't designed for long-distance traffic. The thing is, the northern end of that extension was placed 4 miles north of the original end of the turnpike. Those extra 4 miles instead became a spur of the mainline turnpike, with an X in its exit numbers, and separate numbering, given that exit numbers in the United States are almost always based on what mileage point they are located on in the highway. Anyway, this exit is an exit. It gives us pretty good stadium access, and I like how you can see the F1 track. I know it's why they consider it a mid F1 track, but it's still an F1 track. Traffic is probably a nightmare here on game days, and I think anyone who's been to a Dolphins game here can tell you that. But nobody can save the stadium sprawl, so I don't blame FDOT for any of that. Moving on. Next is exit 265, the exit for State Road 408. The very originally named East-West Expressway, heading toward Orlando and Titusville. This is the only T interchange on the entire highway. It's called a T interchange because it looks like a T. And I want to clarify that every single Google Earth screenshot of the interchanges are taken from an angle where north is perfectly up. So if you want to see the T, just tilt your head a little, okay? Now, the T interchange is marked by all these flyover ramps, taking fairly smooth right or left turn curves instead of any large cloverleafs or weird U-turns. They also allow for significantly more speed while on the ramps at any of these structures. Just look at how much distance you have here. Problem is that they allow for significantly more speed on the ramps than any of those structures. That means less time between drivers merging onto the highway, which is the fastest way to create a bottleneck. As drivers merge and clog one lane, because drivers have to slow down and allow the mergers through, frustrated drivers clog up the next lane as they move, and so on. A more awkward ramp structure where drivers have to slow down and only get to speed up once they're all the way through doesn't actually have this problem as much, because the slowdowns create natural space between drivers. You can only speed so much on an extra curvy ramp. I prefer a T interchange overall because it's less of a waste of space, but its flaws have to be acknowledged. Alright. Next we have what might be my most controversial ranking on this entire list, if you've been in this interchange during rush hour before. I've gone on multiple rants about how I hate massive cloverleafs that waste space, and now I've put what is literally the most massive cloverleaf ramps on the entire turnpike in 16th. Seriously, these ramps are so massive. The speed limit on them is around 35 or 40 miles per hour. I can't really remember. And every 5 miles per hour increase on a cloverleaf requires a roughly 50% increase in diameter of the cloverleaf to accommodate the extra speed. This is literally the physical manifestation of diminishing returns. Look at this big lake here in the bottom, and it's the one currently taking up the bottom third of your screen. Did you even notice the highway right behind it? And how are you going to make such a major highway exit have a one-lane cloverleaf? Seriously, these cloverleafs are one lane. You know how many people take that eastbound Sawgrass and northbound Turnpike exit? But let me defend it just a little. As I previously discussed, the cloverleaf structure actually ends up creating a neat disparate flow of drivers, instead of flooding the turnpike with traffic as such an interchange is wont to do. The problem is that, as we discussed with the Jupiter exit, traffic merging from the cloverleaf pops right into the exit lane for the other cloverleaf, and as you can see here, there is not that much exit time to merge. So maybe it's not that good. This might be the one time I think something weird will be required. Maybe the exit ramp heading for the cloverleaf could be placed prior to the merge lane of the entering cloverleaf. This could allow for a proper large merge lane without excessive weaving. You make the exit lane a bridge over the highway, then bring it down to the cloverleaf you already have. So make a ramp go down here and then come around instead of just having the ramp start here. Is it slightly obnoxious? Yes, but it does resolve the main problem here. And I didn't really defend much of anything. But it might be the prettiest exit on the entire turnpike. Just look at it. This is also the northbound end of the Sunrise Expressway. Funnily enough, soon after it pops you out into the street, it meets with I-95. Absolutely poetic. In 17th place is exit 142 for Port St. Lucie. We've seen this design before, but what I want to acknowledge is direct residential access here. This area right here. Firstly, going straight at the intersection here, yes, but also this direct offshoot going directly into a neighborhood. That's pretty interesting, and I like that. If you're gonna be right next to a neighborhood, you might as well allow direct access into the neighborhood. What I don't like is how long these exit ramps are. Look at this exit on the southbound turnpike. Just follow my mouse here. I'm literally doing an entire infinity sign with my car here, all just to get to this intersection. Also, these thin exit signs are really funny. Next, we have Osceola Parkway. This is the only standard diamond interchange on the entire turnpike. Simple stuff, good work, pack it up. And yes, it's called a diamond interchange because it looks like a diamond. It's an exit. And 19th, we have PGA Boulevard. This is just a really standard modified trumpet again. I don't like the long on-ramp, or long exit ramp too, but I guess you gotta get people a bit of speed, and there's only so many ways you can funnel people to the same spot. And again, this next ramp is funny. There's not really much to say here. It's just fine. And speaking of fine, let's move on to our next category. Fine. These exits are just fine. A lot of these are interchangeable, like the exit 93 here in the town of Lake Worth Beach. It is mercifully not an obnoxious modified trumpet, but I get that they still have to funnel people to two spots, so the obnoxious U-turn ramps make sense just this once. Also, the southbound exit adds Green Acres as a control city, which is hilarious because Green Acres is basically just country clubs, the game. In 21st, we have exit A and B for Sunrise Boulevard. As you can imagine, it is in the town of Sunrise. Shout out to the Florida Panthers. The modified trumpet is pretty standard. I don't know if the extra like A and B ramps down here were really necessary. We have exit 58A here and 58B here. Like, I feel like they could have just committed to the modified trumpet. But it's also possible that this happened after they finally switched to electronic trolling. Or tolling, not trolling, but they're also trolling. In which case, I can't really fault them for it. But, yeah, it's fine. Next, we have exit 31 for Northwest 74th Street. You can really contrast the naming of the exits based on what part of the turnpike they're on. The Homestead extension, remember that's the first 47 miles, names streets, while the rest of the turnpike ends up naming entire cities. Anyway, this is actually the first traditional trumpet on the entire turnpike because Northwest 74th Street here actually ends right here at the turnpike, making the trumpet the logical choice, which I think is great. Also, this bottom image here is an actual Street View screenshot, which is very funny. The Google Street View car was really not cooking. This is then followed by a very similar exit 29, though it's not a proper trumpet this time because the street does not end there, and also that lake is really sad. Exit 67 has a design we've seen before. I honestly have nothing to say about it. Shout out Martin Luther King. Alright, exit 272 is funny for two reasons. First of all, this screenshot here, if you turn your head, might make you think it's a diamond, just like the Osceola Parkway interchange. But not quite. On a normal diamond, when you take an exit and you reach the light, you have the option to go straight back onto the highway. But here you can only go left and right, with the on-ramp awkwardly off to the side. This here might look like you can go onto it, but you can't. The car here is turning left and it's a bit awkwardly off to the side. I guess you technically could do so. There's technically nothing dissuading you here, but it's not really built for that. And also this exit is apparently in Oakland, Florida, which is hilarious. Yeah, I mean, Oakland. Exit 2 has some funny angles in its ramps, and exiting onto a diagonal road always adds a bit of spice. There's not really too much to say about this one. Also, if you're going southbound, this is the last exit before the end of the Turnpike, which is pretty cool. Well, that would be US 1, but it's the last non-US 1 exit before the end of the Turnpike. 312th Street is pretty crazy. What's also kind of crazy is exit 5, which has some unnecessarily long ramps on the north side here for literally no reason. I really cannot stand FDOT's need to shove at least one cloverleaf ramp into every single interchange. Going back to our modified trumpets, we have one of the last of them, exit 152 for Fort Pierce. Going northbound, this is also the last exit before Yeehaw Junction. This exit does one cool thing I want to acknowledge. The control city on the sign changes when going south, because if you are coming from the south, you have to have passed the Yeehaw Junction exit, which is actually closer to Vero Beach than driving all the way down to this exit and heading back up is. I have to dock points for the way said southbound exit actually starts on the bridge. Other than that, exit stuff. Well, decent stuff. But it is also exit stuff because this is an exit. Next we have exit 285 for Leesburg, a town which is most famous for guitarist Randy Rhoads dying in a plane crash there. And Tavares, or maybe Tavares, I have no idea. Which, as you can tell, is the one town I honestly never heard of before making this. Or one of two, actually. The exit is fine. I was going to cook it for not having exits in both directions, but that is currently being constructed. And it's always nice to see smaller towns getting connected like this. Also, this is the first proper trumpet interchange in a good 250 miles, given that the only other ones are in the 30s or so. That's a nice fun fact. Exit 62 is similar to the one for Sunrise Boulevard, except with this really weird ramp system where one ramp lets me go east or west and the other lets me go west. Like, seriously, look at the bottom left here. What even is this? Why are we doing this? This is just extraordinarily wasteful. One ramp can just be one ramp. Exit 49 has Pines Boulevard in it, which you should totally read in a vaguely Eastern European accent. It's pretty normal stuff at this point, but we're out here again with the unnecessary A-B structure. And I don't understand why this ramp for exit 49A, this long one right here, has to be so long. The northbound Turnpike has one exit for both sides. Why did we have to split it here? Exit 296 takes us back to Leesburg, even though I'm not sure how that's the case when those exits are 11 miles apart. This is probably the most exit of all time. Just look at the contrast between the two sides of the Turnpike here. On one side we've got field, and on the other side we've got houses. Anyway, what I really can't understand is why we need two separate ramps to go south, one for each side of the street. We got this cloverleaf here, and this little curvy one here. Just make one and people can do left turns. Next is exit 304 for US 301. This isn't quite a normal diamond because they traditionally don't have their turning lanes placed like this, with these little stubby curves, but that's okay. Also, these merge lanes seem unusually small, but given that this is the last exit before the Turnpike's north end, that's probably okay. And speaking of the Turnpike's end, here we have it. A series of ramps somewhat awkwardly connecting the Turnpike and I-75, 270 miles or so after the Turnpike first crosses I-75. But we'll get to that one later. Other than that, the exit for Wildwood is a pretty standard diamond. If you don't count the massive ramp that merges with I-75's exit ramp, the exit is exactly the same on both roads. You also can't access southbound I-75 from here, which is really weird to me, and there isn't even a sign telling you to take the Inverness and Wildwood exit to do so. Also, the exit to the Turnpike on I-75 is the left exit, which seems a bit weird to me. There's nothing really wrong with this interchange. It's actually pretty simple. There's just a lot of idiosyncrasies. And I do find it sad that there's no Turnpike ends or even Expressway ends sign. We all need a Turnpike ends sign. Now on to interchanges that just make me feel sad. There's nothing actually wrong with exit 278 from Mineola. I'm actually glad we're serving underserved areas like this. This exit opened up in 2017, and there's a whole lot of nothing connecting this place before. So honestly, I'm glad we're doing this. I just think this exit sign is depressing. I don't know why it's larger than it should be. Just have a thin exit sign. And having this exit be right next to the Advent Health Hospital gives me weird vibes. Then again, it's possible that the hospital was put there afterwards. And it's also pretty good for the exit to be right next to the hospital. But what really makes it sad is that this is literally the only exit that doesn't show up on Google Earth. And that's just sad. You see this image up top? This is an actual Google Earth screenshot. I did not modify this. It's literally just forest. The exit did open in 2017 to be fair, but why are we doing this? Why is the road just cut off here? Did they just give up halfway through? Did my Google Earth just not load? What is this? And speaking of what is this, exit 289 is the same thing we just said, but with Orlando Health. So why is it worse? Because there's no southbound re-entry. Why? Exit 34 is a total personal problem. I had no idea what "sta" meant on the exit sign until I was looking it up for this video. Also, there's no pretty lake. The actual trumpet is fine. Exit 133 is ostensibly for Stewart. It's pretty far from Stewart. Exit 152 is even farther from Fort Pierce or Vero Beach, but at least in those cases, the turnpike literally curves west afterwards, so it kinda had to be that way. Exit 81 uses a formula we've seen before. I just really cannot stand how long all these ramps are. You can't help but feel like they could compress the length of all these ramps down by 50% and still keep the basic structure intact. Exit 69 actually has nothing wrong with it. This is actually a perfectly decent modified trumpet. There's just a landfill right next to the exit that ruins everything. That landfill is also the highest non-road point on land that the turnpike ever sees. Or non-building. I wish I was joking. Exit 75 has an even more egregiously long ramp structure. Seriously, I think I could fly and I think I could make a plane take off in the length of this ramp. And listen, I get that there are lots of canals here that they rightfully want to avoid. That makes sense. Go off. But if you want to do that so badly, surely you can just pick a different street. This ramp is so long, I literally can't even fit it all in this image. Just look at this bottom left image. You can't even see the end of this curve of the ramp. Why are we doing this? Exit 20 is the only partial cloverleaf for Parklow on the entire turnpike. This interchange has a unique structure compared to your average Parklow though. The ingress lanes get separated from the street as soon as they can be. So when you're coming on these lanes, the turnpike, you essentially have a permanent green despite there being a light here on each side for, to handle the incoming traffic onto the street. The problem is that the actual street is so busy that this often doesn't help anyway. For context, Kendall or West Kendall more accurately, is one of the busiest and biggest Miami suburbs, and the stretch of the turnpike between Kendall Drive here, and the next northbound exit, which we'll talk about later, is, I believe, the busiest stretch on the entire turnpike. So you have to figure this is the one time a sizable frontage road be good to distribute all the traffic. But then again, you can only blame FDOT so much for the volume of traffic itself. Also, the northbound exit only has one lane, which is really weird to me. I don't know why we're doing that. Like, you have to figure they could put 2 lanes here. It branches out afterwards, but like, capacity. Exit 267A isn't actually that bad of an interchange. Exit 267B is wedged into here, which makes it look more confusing than it is. State Road 429 forms the northern half of the Beltway, or a ring road, if you want to call it that, around Orlando, and that's why the control cities are the same as the ones for State Road 417, whose interchange we ranked first. But this interchange is not nearly as neat. These northbound ramps also come off as wasteful. Again, so long. Literally half of the image is taken up by the screenshot. I had to screenshot so much that we're getting the Orange County Clerk of Courts sneaking into here. We're sneaking in the West Orange soccer complex because of how much screenshot I had to take because of these northbound ramps. What are we doing? Southwest 137th Avenue is a southbound exit, northbound entrance situation. And I really don't like interchanges where you can only enter and exit in one direction. Because what's the point of having the exit there? What about the people who live there? Having an exit just for temporary travel seems weird. And it's even weirder when the only 2 reasons this exit could be here, those being the Homestead Speedway and the local Air Force Base, that already have an exit for them, literally 1 mile south of this one. Is FDOT seriously going to look me in the eye and tell me that they made an exit just for some NASCAR races? Really? Exit 135 is just really, really ugly. A very awkward signage, and literally every single Google Earth image here has construction in it. And it's apparently so ugly I forgot to get the Google Earth overhead screenshot of our interchange. Just a sad little thing. Now, I want to clarify that these interchanges are accurate as of when I made this video. New exits are definitely going to be built. One exit will even be demolished. Maybe, just maybe by the time that you're watching this video, this exit will finally be finished. But as of right now, this is just a sad little thing. Moving on. Alright, so now we have one of our first, if not the first, multiple exits in one interchange. Now, exits 16 and 17 go to different places. Exit 16 goes to Southwest 152nd Street and 117th Avenue. And exit 17 goes to the Don Chula Expressway, which acts as a connector between the Turnpike and the local Palmetto Expressway, which is one of the busiest roads in the entire country. But anyway, these exits are put in the same rank because if you're going onto the northbound Turnpike from Southwest 152nd Street, you actually have to choose between whether you want to go onto the Don Chula Expressway or onto the Turnpike itself. So when the ramps kind of combine purposes like that, that makes it the same interchange for me. But anyway, first of all, the Turnpike ramp is inexplicably on your right and curves to your right, despite being on your left, and vice versa for State Road 874. And second, there are 2 separate ramp sets here, one for the ingress ramp and one for the Turnpike State Road 874 entrance ramp. And why couldn't we just have a merging situation where the 874 lanes are segregated, but there are lanes back to the Turnpike and you can go there? So that way, ingress lanes can go there instead of needing an entire obnoxious flyover ramp just to get onto the highway. How many ramps do we need? How much weaving do we need? Just put things together. Look at all the weaving going on here. This is an entire, like, spider web of why? Oh, I almost forgot. There's also a completely unnecessary flyover ramp at State Road 874's end that goes to a completely unrelated random street here on the western side, and I don't know why it's there. Also, Don Shula was the coach of the Miami Dolphins for 25 years, and the team won both its Super Bowls under him. So shout out Don Shula, your legacy deserves better than this interchange. And now, exit 259, a truly infamous one if you live in the Orlando area. A great example of how so many of these interchange designs have been hindered by the requirement for toll collection. This interchange was built in the late 60s, and it shows. You can see right here, this stretch right here, where all the traffic was funneled to collect tolls. But that consistently results in awkward structures, which really aren't any better for traffic. At least symmetry in an interchange makes for something simple to parse and distributes the traffic roughly evenly, assuming even traffic on both sides, which is admittedly a big ask. You don't even know what's happening here, and we've still seen nothing yet. Also, there is no superposition in these cloverleaf ramps. We want the road to be slightly tilted in the opposite direction of our turning force to make the turn easier. That's what superposition means in the context of a road or a railroad. But there's none of that here, and that bumps us down in our ranking too. Seriously, this ramp almost looks flat. Like, what is this? I guess it's what you get when you open an interchange in 1967. It's been a long time. Speaking of non-parsable, we have Interstate 75 to Naples here. And yes, I-75 came back again. Which, okay. First of all, the street view car got cooked again. Second, there is no southbound I-75 access here on the northbound turnpike, but there is on the southbound turnpike, which seems reasonable, but like, why not? You also have direct access to I-75's Miami Gardens Drive exit going southbound here, which is funny, but again, these exceptions are just weird. We've got these big entire spinny ramps in complete opposite sides of the place, which is very funny. But you also have a largely unsigned express lane entrance exit on the left going northbound, which is just awkward. Just a sad, awkward interchange all around. But now we go from sad to just bad. Okay. So, we're back to that spur now that exit 2X was on. And first of all, this already deserves to be down here because this is an exit from the turnpike to the turnpike, which is a crime. Second, you'll notice that exit 47 is here as well. That's because when you take exit 4X, exit 47 is on the ramp. But also, when you take the normal southbound turnpike, the exit is found as the road curves to the west, which is just as horrible. But it's even worse because these are two different ramps, and it's even worse because these two ramps are like half a mile away from the actual street. This image on the bottom here is an actual screenshot of the interchange. So I am not exaggerating the length here. This weird P formation or whatever is exit 47, and this here is all exit 4X going toward the turnpike, but also going to exit 47, including this ramp here, which kind of branches off this way, as you can see in this image. Because why is there an exit in a curve? Yeah. Exit 23 is less wasteful, but just kind of poorly designed. I cannot fathom why these exits are so far apart. This tiny like stub ramp on the bottom here is exit 23 northbound, and this one is exit 23 southbound. You may notice how this exit is completely disconnected from everything. It's very weird. This actual horizontal road here, this is Bird Road. This is nowhere near Bird Road. This is an exit onto an avenue that takes us to Bird Road. And exiting onto an avenue is already pretty sad, but like, if you're trying to get onto the turnpike northbound, you also have to turn onto this avenue, and this is not exactly a wide avenue. And then you have to merge to the left if you weren't already there, which is just absolutely horrendous for all the people trying to actually like get onto the turnpike. It's just not good stuff. I get that they had to work around the canal here, but you can't help but figure that they could have focused everything on this left side of the street instead. Exit 11 and 12 just baffles me because this frontage road comes across as super unnecessary. Generally, your frontage road consistently runs along with the road, serving all the streets along the way while creating easy ingress and egress points. But here, we have a frontage road for two exits that are half a mile apart. The street numbers are literally 5 apart. I can't help but feel like this could have been more like exit 13, where you can easily continue on to the next street if you want to, but making people weave onto the frontage road at exit 12 just to get onto a street that's 2 seconds away from exit 11 is weird to me. Like, exit 12 goes onto the same frontage road as exit 11, but the streets are not that far apart. Just use the same frontage road. Just commit. We don't need a merge. We don't need a turnpike. I'm just annoyed. Yeah. So, exit 86. The problem with this exit is that, like, and I use the word zipper incorrectly in the slide here, so forgive me. But the reason this exit bothers me is, like, first of all, every single ramp decides to prioritize the people going east, which is just weird to me. Like, if you're going northbound, it prioritizes the eastward direction. If you're going southbound, it prioritizes the eastward direction. There's literally more ramps here, more lanes here to turn right, and that's fine. But like, and then you have this weird situation where going southbound, you have separated lanes just to merge onto and off of the highway. Which, like, I get it so that you have time, and I get so that this entire ramp structure is so wide so that people have time to, like, not get caught by the short merge. But then why are you using this merging structure? How many people could possibly need to go to Boynton Beach? I don't understand why we're doing this. I don't. How many people need to go east? Why are we making these ramps so big? Just make a normal ramp. Just it's not. Why do you need to focus on this Boynton Beach? Okay, I give up. Okay. Exit 254. I can respect not wanting to use too much space. I would dare say that I admire that. But this is horrendously confusing for drivers. First of all, look at the mainline exit sign, which is the one my mouse is currently on. Can you tell me, honestly, what is going on here? Does this make any sense to you if you're looking at this with no context? And if you're looking at this with context, does it make any sense? If you're looking at this interchange from above, and yes, this is the entire interchange, can you parse anything that's going on here? So let's try to break this down. Let's say you're exiting on the northbound turnpike. Can you come here to this section, which again is designed to funnel everybody for tolls and has ruined the entire interchange? You come north and you have these three options. You have east on the Beachline Expressway, formerly known as the Beeline Expressway, until some guy from Cape Canaveral realized that Cape Canaveral has the closest beach to Orlando, and he decided he wanted to do some nice marketing tactics. You can go east here toward the airport. You can also go, and stay with me here. You can go directly east on the Beachline Expressway here, but you cannot go directly west on the Beachline Expressway. You instead have to go south on US 17/441 and west on US 92, not to be confused with north US 17/441 and eastbound US 92. To go onto a cloverleaf ramp, to go onto a street, to turn right onto the street, to then kind of awkwardly, like, go northbound on the street, to then turn right on the street, to then take this awkward ramp onto the Beachline Expressway itself to go this way. Up, down, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. You know, if you have any idea what I just said, I commend you. And if you don't worry about it. And what's even worse is exit 255 Consulate Drive, which you can actually see in the screenshot I just took here on the top left. This literally just feels like compensation for exit 254 scariness. And what's really bad about this is that this is a southbound exit only. And I do not mean southbound exit, northbound entrance. I literally just mean southbound exit. It's literally just this. This is the smallest interchange ever. It's literally just this ramp with this admittedly nice intersection structure here that allows for easy right turns because traffic's only going in so many directions, and that's pretty cool. But what are we doing? Why is this interchange so bad that you needed a separate exit to compensate? This is the saddest thing I've ever seen. Oh no. But we can do worse than sad. It's time for our final main category. may you find heaven. To explain why this whole mess is bad beyond the size of this phone, let me explain what the average trajectory of a drive here looks like. If I'm driving on the northbound Turnpike, I have an exit for 8th Street, an exit for the Dolphin Expressway, and an exit for Northwest 12th Street. Nice. But if I'm driving on the southbound Turnpike, I have to go on an entire separate massive lanes, from which I then also have an exit for Northwest 12th Street. That also takes me to the westbound Dolphin Expressway, which I cannot get to going northbound, because going northbound, I can only get to the eastbound Dolphin Expressway. Oh, and also, going northbound, sorry, there's an express lane exit toward the only eastbound Dolphin Expressway, which forced me to miss its first exit. Are you keeping up? Going back to southbound, after that dual exit 27 situation, we had an exit to the eastbound Dolphin Expressway, a massive loop ramp situation. Like, why is this ramp so big? And then we have an exit toward 8th Street, for which the ramp is legitimately like a mile long, because for some reason it merges with the Dolphin Expressway's exit ramp. As it comes toward the Turnpike, it has its own 8th Street exit, but only for westbound 8th Street. And if you want to go to eastbound 8th Street, you have to drive the extra mile ahead. And if you got confused and wanted to go to westbound 8th Street, but didn't take the side lanes, I wish you luck driving at least half a mile just to find a place where a U-turn is possible and legal. Honestly, just turn left onto a side street, and maybe consider why you were ever here. Next we have exit 242 and exit 144. This is not a typo. This is the same exit to the same places, Kissimmee and St. Cloud. This is not a joke. If you're wondering why I have included a wide shot of suburbia instead of a wide shot of the interchange, that's because most of the interchange is here on the top left, nice trumpet, except for this northbound exit ramp all the way down here at the bottom right. I know I've advocated fervently for less complex ramp structures to save space, but this is horrendous. And I get that if you're going northbound, this is the first exit in 49 miles, but there's been like 2 service plazas along the way. Surely at that point I can wait another couple miles. Also, one of the signs when you're turning says Disney World. And honestly, if you're taking this exit to go to Disney World, please stop doing that. You deserve better. Speaking of deserving better, exit 240 might be the most depressing exit in this entire video. Now, I want to be clear that at the time of this video, exit 240 is being demolished, replaced by an actual exit 241 that serves both highway directions. The current exit 240 is a southbound exit only with a northbound entrance. And this exit wasn't built like this, it ended up like this over time due to some construction projects. Still, as it is, this is basically just a catcher exit if you're heading southbound at Mr. Kissimmee exit and don't want to drive a while to a service plaza. Just a sad state all around. Next, we have the Golden Glades Interchange. No. Okay, alright, okay. I could get a PhD before I explain what's going on here. I think if this is already ran way too long, but if I actually try to explain what is happening here, we'd be here all day. I'm going to let one statistic speak for itself. When you are on Interstate 95, which is northeast heading yellow road here, this one right here, yep, and you take the exit that is ostensibly for the Turnpike, you get a sign saying that the Turnpike is 1 mile away. 1 mile! And listen, this interchange was built in 1953 or 1957, depending on who you ask, and originally did not connect a lot of these roads. It was originally just an intersection with the Palmetto Expressway, which is here on the left, and US 441, which I honestly don't even know where it is in this image. The Turnpike, Interstate 95, and the Palmetto Expressway contains the top two busiest roads in Florida, 995 and the Palmetto Expressway. So I get that this interchange has to exist. But this is absolutely miserable. Just look at it. Go on a map and try to parse it yourself. It's a whole Gordian knot of roads. And we're still not done. Next, we have an interchange that is worse because I can't explain it. And well, let's just paint the picture. Picture this. You live in Homestead. You are heading toward Port Everglades on the eastern end of Interstate 595 to make it to a cruise. You are heading northbound on the Turnpike right now. The air is crisp. The sun is shining. The roads are a little bumpy in this section, but that's okay. You're making progress. You spot a massive road in front of you and see that red, white, and blue interstate shield before you. Your destination is approaching. You head off to the side, to the exit lanes, looking forward to your beers and your pool lounging. You take the exit, but something's off. The exit splits into two lanes, or two sections more accurately, but that's okay. West I-75 and State Road 84 are clearly on one side. US 441, which somehow keeps coming back. I-75 East and State Road 84 East are on the other. You stay in the middle lane and make a right. Everything's okay. The other path is heading in the air for no reason whatsoever, seemingly merging with a southbound exit lane that literally makes its drivers do a 360-degree spin in midair just to get to a road that could literally just be accessed with one flyover ramp. And you wonder why it was necessary to have exits to all of these roads when they could have just put exits on I-595 or other places like normal people. It's okay to make us drive half a mile, F-dot. We're people. We can push on. But suddenly, we round a bend. A flash of green appears. You know what that is. That yellow line lives in your dreams. It's the white letters that shock you. Exit only, or left exit even, and 900 feet. Feeling like you just jolted out of bed from a dream where you fell onto a spiky pole and dropped your taco. You swerve just in time, avoiding that left exit, wondering why a forced warning of the exit is literally as we're about to take it. But while contemplating that, you realize you have made a mistake. There is another. State Road 84, now in the right lane. You needed the center. You curse out Florida, Royal Caribbean, and whoever invented Apple Maps as you are forced onto a road that really should not be as wide as it is. You desperately search for a U-turn. It's okay, you say. You'll get back onto Interstate 595. What you don't know is that you're going to have to get past the Rainbow Interchange, or the interchange between I-595 and I-95, which somehow doesn't even make it into the screenshot. 2. I hope you're ready, but in your heart, you know you're not. Also going southbound on the Turnpike, our first warning for the Griffin Road exit is when it's 1,000 feet away, which again is ridiculous. This is California type signage. Also Griffin Road is included here because when you enter the Turnpike from I-595, the Griffin Road exit is on the ramp. Apologies to that exit, it deserves better than this. If you're thinking I should take a breath after all that, you're wrong. Because even though I might drink some water, exit 19 infuriates me on an entirely different level. Alright, just a volume warning for you. I warned you. Why is the service plaza in the exit? Why is there even a service plaza here? It's West Kendall, not West Kentucky. But you know what? That's okay, That's okay. There are bigger problems than this. Problem number one. There are express lanes going south here. The express lanes are on the left. But because they had to shove in a service plaza here, the express lanes have to stop, creating a massive bottleneck. Going northbound, the express lanes start after passing this exit. Problem number two, going southbound, the exit at least has the courtesy to separate the service plaza and the actual exit to the actual street. But going northbound, I have to take the exit to the street like everyone else, pass a light, and then reach the plaza. But the plaza entrance is where everyone else merges onto the turnpike. So I also have to avoid getting stuck on the turnpike. Problem number three. There isn't even a good service plaza here. There is literally just a Shell gas station and a mid Dunkin' Donuts here. And listen, I understand that the reason service plazas ever existed in the first place is to avoid people leaving the highway, getting gas, and not getting back on again because they don't want to pay the toll again. I get it. But first of all, it is 2026, and we do not need to be thinking that way anymore. And second, I don't know how they enforced anything here, because if you have to go through a light to get out of or onto the plaza anyway, doesn't that mean that people entering from this street wouldn't be charged? It seems like an issue in and of itself. Problem number four. There is a hill at the southbound exit here for absolutely no reason. That means you literally cannot see the cars past it. You see this image here and how you literally can't see the exit? That is the actual view when driving. I get that you're supposed to take the exit slow, but even then you cannot see anything. I shudder to think about how much rear-ending and brake slamming happens here daily. Also, this is the only left exit on the entire turnpike, which is pretty funny. Our second worst interchange is exit 66, Atlantic Boulevard. Now you may be looking at the map and thinking, this isn't a non-parsable mess of spaghetti or an exit with a stupid service plaza baked into it for no reason. What's wrong? But to me, the only thing more egregious than a non-parsable mess of spaghetti is an exit that cannot justify itself. And this delivers that in spades. This is an exit that can only be accessed from the northbound turnpike, and from the street itself we can only enter the southbound turnpike. But this is an actively populated area. What do they want us to do? Well, let's say we're on Atlantic Boulevard. We can head south on the turnpike from there, but what if we want to head north? The immediate instinct might be to say, oh look, there's a service plaza right south of this exit. You can even see it in the image we have here as the road starts to widen before the interchange. That would be egregious, but the reality is somehow worse. You see, if we keep driving, we see a sign pointing us to the northbound turnpike. Yay! But that takes us to the next exit. Let me ask you this. If you're going to have an interchange that just directs me to another interchange, why did you build this interchange? What is here that makes all this necessary? Are you going to tell me that directing northbound traffic to Harrah's Pompano Beach was fundamentally necessary? And this isn't an exit 240 Clay Whaley Road situation. This interchange has always been like this. Why does this need to be here? Why can't I just drive a mile forward like everyone else? What problem are we solving here? At least the spaghetti and the service plaza solved some obvious problem, even if they did so in the worst way possible. But what is this? Why are we spending hard-earned toll money on this? Now, you might be waiting for the worst interchange. But first, we need to take a detour. Because I'm not really sure how to rank this exit. But first, you can admire this stupid design of this exit. Here's the exit we are referring to down at the bottom. If I want to go north, I literally just have to go north to the other exit, which is right there. It's right there. I can fit it all in the same screenshot. What are we doing? Detour time. This is exit 267B for a code. In terms of the actual exit, it's very standard. A lot of the bloat you see in the satellite image is from exit 267A, which we'll cover later. However, they didn't force ramps to the highway in any of the exits here, which I respect, and that's why I originally had this at number 4. But let's talk about the history of Ocoee for a second. Ocoee used to be a sundown town. On November 2nd and 3rd, 1920, a white mob ran all of Ocoee's black residents out of town, killing many. The likely estimates converge on 30 or so, along with 2 white rioters killed by friendly fire. The riot was a devastating tragedy, with disgusting levels of pure rage and racism emblematic of the era. I don't have time to go into full detail here, but you should absolutely look into it. But here's the thing. This section of the Turnpike, between Orlando and its current northern terminus, was completed in the mid-1960s. I have found no definitive proof of whether this exit was there or not at that time, but we do know that according to Orlando Weekly, by 1969, the town was still struggling to integrate its school. Not exactly a great place to be. This means that there are 2 possibilities here. The optimistic one says that this exit being here actually helped to get the town out of its worst habits by connecting it with the rest of the world. The pessimistic one is that FDOT built an exit to a straight-up sundown town, because the Floridian government at the time absolutely would have done so. Also, census data indicates that there were no black people living in Ocoee between 1940 and 1970. It took until 1980 for any to return. So what are we doing here then? Evidence leans towards setting this to the bottom, but we can't be sure. Maybe the exit did genuinely have a good effect on the town. And I'm here to rank roads, not towns. My respect for the lack of blow alone almost gets us to the 4 spots single-handedly. Still, I can't help but wonder, did the designers of the highway know about the history of this town at all? And I just want to be clear, it's not about town now. You can go and visit, don't worry. But it's about the history, you know? But now it's time for the absolute worst exit on Florida's Turnpike. We have seen exits that are beautifully designed, exits with beautiful scenery, and exits to the middle of nowhere. We have seen depressing mounds of spaghetti and more modified trumpets than I can count. And we have seen an exit that was outright unnecessary in Atlantic Boulevard. But the only thing worse than an exit that doesn't need to exist is an exit that's outright egregious. The worst exit on Florida's Turnpike is exit 98, Jog Road. Once again, this is an exit that is only available going northbound with a southbound entrance ramp. That already makes this bad. But what makes this worse than Atlantic Boulevard? First of all, Atlantic Boulevard had an exit a mile ahead of it. But, it's the first exit for a good 4 miles or so. At least there is justified reasons for an exit in the area. But Jog Road, there are literally 2 separate exits within a mile of it. Exits 97 and 99 are perfectly good exits. In fact, you can literally see all 3 exits here in the screenshot, Jog Road being the middle one here, which still encompasses a smaller area than multiple interchanges I have shown by now. What are we doing here? They can't even convince me it's an alternative way to get to West Palm Beach, because West Palm Beach is east of here. And this, if you look closely, is a north-south road. The only thing I can find here in the area is a small Kaiser University building and a random mall. And you know what? That Kaiser University building is on Jog Road. But that still doesn't justify this, because guess what? The main Kaiser University residential campus is in West Palm Beach, east of here, where this road does not go. And what makes this even worse is that since this road takes a north-south trajectory, just a couple intersections after the interchange on northbound Jog Road, we pass Okeechobee Boulevard, which is the road that exit 99 is for. Why do we need this? Why did Florida people in the 2000s sit in their rooms and think, yeah, We really need an exit to this one random street. Do we really need to spend money on this? And this was 5 years after they'd opened the Southern Boulevard exit. If you really need to tell me traffic to West Palm Beach was that bad, then okay. But what is this exit doing? Just make another east-west exit at this point. Why are we putting it here? Is there some rich person on Jolly Road I'm not familiar with? Is there some really important reason this exit is here? Because if so, if that is pointed out to me, I will personally apologize. But as it stands, there is basically nothing here. This is not a small town. This is an exit sandwiched between exits on what's supposed to be a road for long distance traffic. This is just sad. Unnecessary. Why are we doing this, man? What are we doing here? Full disclaimer, all these rankings are subjective. Please don't come after me. Thank you.